Welcome to Jefferson Patterson Park and Museum, and I'm Betty Seifert, curator here. I've been working here for a long time, and I have taught many weaving classes to young children who come for Children's Day. So I thought I would give an introduction to some of the looms that we've used, and some that you can make for yourself at home and continue to weave and learn something new about the fabrics that you wear. So, over here, excuse me, to my right, we have several different kinds of looms, as you can see. And we have one mechanical loom. Now, weaving has been around since ancient times, millennia. And it started out just very, very basic with some threads, which we call the warp threads on the looms. They're the ones that go back and forth. And then weft threads, which go across. And weft threads can be woven in all kinds of different combinations. So today, we depend on computers to do our weaving for us. They drive the machines, the looms, which are huge machines, and they also control how the threads are maneuvered so that you can get very fancy patterns easily, whereas when you're doing it yourself, it's a little more difficult. Okay, so we're going to start out very basic with what's called a plain weave or a tabby, and that is where you weave in and out of every other thread. So like you pick up one thread and you just keep going over and under each thread, and this has got a lot of threads in it because I wanted to show you the difference between how the fabric you get when you'd go close together with the threads or far apart with the threads. These are much more close, so you could get a nice little scarf out of this. I put on a lot of extra warp, so it would be long enough for a scarf. And as you can see, it takes a little, it's tedious because we don't have a machine picking it up for us. And then, voila, you can put your ruler or whatever you're stick or whatever you're using on edge, and then you can weave across. This is a little bit, you see this? If we wove with this, it would be very, very hardly visible. So what we won't do is use something like this, which is very fine, but I wanted to show you so that you would understand the difference in set. Now, if you used a thread like this, which is what I'm using over here on this one, you would get something much, better. You can see it. And then when you go and pick up the opposite threads, like this, when they're closer together, it's harder and slower to do. I'm going to show you some that are much easier, but I thought I would give you a little hint as to how important set is, which is the spacing of your warp and weft threads in a loom. And this is still going. It, as I say, tedious, but the end product is always much nicer than you ever would think it would be. And I'm just going to take some of this off. There's a thing that you can do which is called make a butterfly. Isn't that a beautiful name? And it's where you take some yarn and you wind it around 2 fingers and then 2 more fingers, and putting a cross in between, just like that. And it keeps the threads in order so it doesn't make a big knot, which is a good thing. I hate to have to deal with knots when I'm weaving, and it makes it very even more tedious. But I don't consider weaving tedious really because I really love to do it. But I know that watching somebody do this can seem like, oh, they're never going to finish that thing. I know they're not, but I've woven many things, and I do finish eventually. So here's, see, put it back through, but that's putting a butterfly through. And you notice I can get it through much faster by doing, making it into a little butterfly. And then when you push it down, I'm going to pick up another thread so it'll make it more visible and show you. And then we'll move on to another loom. But this one I thought would give you a little bit of a hint of all the kinds of things that you can make, and especially if you want to make a nice scarf for someone for Christmas or their birthday or something. This is one way to do it. It is really, as I say, takes time, and you will expend a lot of time in weaving if you want to do it and create something really beautiful. There. Now, as you can see, and I'm going to use this, which is not what it's supposed to be for, but I'm going to use it. Oops, maybe I shouldn't. Forgot to bring my little comb, which you always forget something, and that was what I forgot today, was the little comb. But I was just going to show you how when you put them down and you get them closer, this is much closer, and it'll make a pretty scarf. When you wash it, it'll pull together and it'll make a real nice fabric. This is called plain weave. Like I told you, your sheet is woven with plain weave, but these are also plain weave. Now this is another one that's going to be plain weave. And this one's, you can see the spacing is much wider. And when you do this one, what will happen is that, and it's a little easier because it's quick, it's spaced further apart, and just like so. And I usually leave the end in just to keep it from falling out. And then we go back like so. And what is really fun is to have something when you get through that you've made yourself. And I made another circle. There we go. No, I didn't. Because this is confusing. Okay. See. Now, if you do a bunch of these and push them real close together, they will eventually cover the whole warp. I don't have a sample of that here today, but I do have a sample of something that is woven similar to this, which is a rug. And it was woven with big coarse fibers, and you can see it makes a nice heavy fabric when you push them down together, and it will be easy to walk on and sturdy. If you wove it as fine as the threads, you see it would be much smoother, softer fabric, but if you weave a heavier one, you get a contrast. Now, we're going to go over here. I have to show you this just because I didn't make it myself. I used it just to show people. It's using a small loom like this to make a tapestry. And that is so much fun. I started a thing here with marking a cardboard to put threads on it, and I was going to draw a picture behind it and then weave it. I've done that before, and it is such fun because you can make small little patterns that are beautiful to decorate your wall or a pillow or something, and they're just real nice. Right here, I wanted to show you. It's a different way. You notice on that loom there, the warp up, because you have screws that will allow the front and the back to turn, so you can weave, and then when you get ready to move it, you can roll it and then tighten the screws down. This these two are examples of different ways of doing that to make something a little bit longer. This one, it has Velcro on both ends, and what you can do is lay out threads that in any kind. I don't want to use this because it's so pretty. I have to use something pretty, and you can just put out a length of thread like this, and Velcro will hold it, which is the nice thing about Velcro. And you can put a little fringe on it so that you can move up to the edge if you want to. And you can make it as I say, make the set as close or as far apart as you want to. And then you can weave it. Setting up a loom just takes a little bit of planning to think about what you want to make and how sturdy you want it to be, or how fine and fluffy you want it to be. How you set the threads, how close together they are, will determine the set of the end result of what your fabric is. So if you do them, I'm doing these fairly close together, like the little one over there, the gray blue one, because I like fluffy, light fabrics. But I also like rugs. So you can get all kinds of variables from using the different looms. This one right here will give you a long thing. Same thing, it's set up differently. As you can see, it's added a dimension. You can create, instead of using a ruler to go across, you tie this to one end. I bet I could do that. Just like this. There's some tension on it. So you can see, you can put the yarn through here, and then you can do this and put the yarn through down there. And you get the same effect as of using the ruler and going across one at a time. And so this is the next kind of a step up in the evolution of weaving, is making plain weave that you can automatically raise or lower the threads, set of threads. And the next step after that was to control more than one set of threads in different ways. And right here, we have a little called structural loom. It's a very old one. I have several of these that I teach with. And basically, you can have what are called 4 harnesses. These right here, and each of those has heddles on it, and each heddle has an eye. And these, you thread them, and you thread them in a pattern so that when you weave, when you raise harnesses, you raise a certain set of threads. See, like this is raising 2. I put up down 2, and I raise 2. And if I did the opposite 2, it would give me a reverse of what was there. Let's see. Show you that real quick. This is just a demo piece, so it doesn't. I don't know where the end of that yarn is, but here we go. If we do that, it'll make it easier for you to see. If I do this. And then do this. Excuse my shoulder. But you can see right there that it's on alternate 2s. So I raised 2 and I lowered 2. Now if I did it every other one, it'll make it look a little different kind of set. I'm going to do that for you now. And this is called the beater. It's also what spaces the threads to the very evenly. And then we're going to put this back. Go through there, please. I should have used a shovel, but I didn't. I tend to wing it. All right, so now you can see that they're alternate, but look at how different they look. If you look at them, well, let's put something across it so that you can see it better. But see, it's entirely different. It's very fine. And whereas here, we had a much more distinct pattern. And if you're planning to weave something with triangles and things like this here, these with little patterns in them, you usually draw them on a graph paper. And then you also plot out how you want them to go so that when they are woven, they make patterns like this down here. This, and it's all controlled by how you, what is called drawing it in, putting it on the loom in the arrangement of the heddles, and then how you, the order in which you weave them. So you can do very complex things even on a 4 harness loom like this. Then when you get to 8 harnesses, which this weave is designed for, you get even more complicated. And this is more of an 8 harness pattern. So there's so many different ways that you can weave and set up the looms and do it yourself, as opposed to buying it from somewhere else. And with time at home, you can really learn to do something very clever and pretty and surprise somebody you love. I wanted to show you a few books that might help you with what you're doing. And this is one, just making cardboard looms, as I was starting to show you over there. And you can make them in any shape. That's what's really fun about it, you know. You can do anything. And here, I love this, the title, Free Weaving. And it shows you how to go about putting them in any shape, on any structure, somewhere, you know. So that's a cool one. I like the title, Weaving That Sings. And it's just variations on patterns like this. And that's what I'm going to set that cardboard up, is to weave something like this, draw my own picture and have a nice pattern, which will be more like a mural or you know, a piece of art. So that's a fun thing to do. This, just simple diagrams and explanations of different kinds of weaving. And this shows you the plain weave, like I was showing you right there, in its various forms. And it's a nice little book to have, and it shows you how to set up the warps in different kinds of ways. It's a nice book, and it shows you how to do a draft. So, simple little book. You can put it in a little bag and carry it with you. A little encyclopedia of weaving terms. I've used a lot of terms today. You'll probably wonder what they were at the end of the time. Anyway, those are some of the few books that I've had. And this was from a library throwaway, but here we go. Love the books, and I have way more books at home, but we all do. And it's fun to teach and to learn and to share what we know. And I just hope that one of these days you will have something that you want to show too. This is hand woven, and this is plain weave, believe it or not, but it's the way I arrange the threads. If you look around here, which is where it's just woven plain weave, all one color, you can see that in the warp, I had them alternate threads, alternate red and brown, and then I put 2 browns, and then I went on changing the order of the alternates. So then when I wove 1 brown and 1 red across, 1 brown, and then the next row on the plain weave I wove in red, I would get this kind of a pattern right here. And then when I changed it and did the brown one first and the red one next, it would change how they arrived. And so then you get these squares, which making a fancy pattern out of plain weave. very simply by changing colors in your warp and your weft. Anyway, I think that's it for today, and I hope that you enjoyed it and that you go out and get some yarn and learn to weave.